Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to the Scene Vault Podcast, your source for all things NASCAR history. Presented by Las Vegas Motor Speedway, America's racing showplace.
If we run the team and we hire Matt Kenseth to drive the car, I think Matt can do it. And my dad was completely silent at the table, completely silent. We win this race. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, yeah. I get goose pimples just thinking about that race because it was so exciting. Yes, we were competitive, and yes, we were there to win, and yes, both of us were there to take each other's money. I mean, there's no question about it. But it was so much fun to park next to him every week, race as hard as we could, and have the laughs we had. It was so much fun.
The day NASCAR and all of us associated in any way with NASCAR forget its past, that's the day we don't have any future.
So Matt Kenseth gets in the car at Nashville.
Let's go back and talk about how Matt Kenseth got in the car.
Well,
I think this is a
how did that
story.
Come about?
Well, when we had the problem on Saturday night, we went back to the motel. And we all went out to eat, and the whole team was eating, and we were talking about what we were going to do and how we were going to do this, and we needed to find a driver, and everybody kind of put some names out there, and Kathy Virtue put some names out there, and we were sitting at the table, and I said to my dad, a lot of the names that have been brought out, people have done this already, and we're trying to build this team to go win races and become a force down here. We got to look for somebody that's going to be able to take us there. I said, I hate to say this, but if we run the team and we hire Matt Kenseth to drive the car, I think Matt can do it. And my dad was completely silent at the table, completely silent. And and everybody had a conversation, and when supper was over, my dad came to me and said, "Robbie, do you really feel that that's what you want to do?" And I said, "Well, Dad, I really feel like I'd like to drive it myself, but that ain't the right thing for where our team is right now."
Really?
Our team would be best if we could team up and have somebody that we have complete confidence in and go race. And he says, "Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but if that's what you want to do, then you go do that. You're going to have to get a hold of him and see if he'll drive the car." And
had you ever talked to him about
No. And what's really funny is
there was no grand master plan.
No. So we got back. We did all our stuff at Bristol, and we came back and got home. And on Sunday morning, I was going to try to get a hold of Matt. So I call his house, and I get a hold of his. I think at that time was his mom, and she told me he was racing in Rougemont, North Carolina, in a late model race. So I called over to Rougemont to the track and left a message that I needed Matt to give me a call, and I gave him my name and number and told him I'd like him to have me call as soon as he could. Well, it took a little while, and all of a sudden Matt calls. He says, "Robbie, what do you need?" Yeah. And we got talking, and he's like, I told him what I wanted to do, and he was sort of like, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, this is what I want to do." And at that time, he had just accepted an ASA ride for Jerry Gunderman up in Wisconsin, and I think he might have ran a race or two. I can't remember how it was, but I think at that time he really wanted to do what we were doing and wanted to come try this. And this was an opportunity. And I mean, him and his dad finished racing up at Rougemont, and they drove down that night, and we fit him in a car and made the deal, and he said he was going to go back and talk to Jerry about his ASA ride, and he would meet me at Nashville. That's how it all started.
So you called him the week after Bristol, or you
No,
called
I called him the day we raced on Bristol on Saturday. I called him on Sunday morning.
Did you really?
Yeah, because we had to be at Nashville on Thursday. Going through tech.
Oh yeah.
So I had to get him fitted in the car. So he was at Rougemont. So he came and sat in the car, and we fitted him up and got his seat and everything the way he wanted it. And then we got ready to go to Nashville.
Now, was this a one race deal or substitute deal? You knew that this was going to be permanent, right?
Yeah.
Now, was Tim hurt that bad, or was he just?
Tim was hurt bad enough that he wasn't going to drive the car anymore.
Okay. All right. So Matt qualifies third at Nashville, and he runs pretty well in the race, finishes 11th on the lead lap, then finishes 7th at Talladega, the first time that he's ever raced there.
Yeah.
It might have been the first time he'd ever seen the place.
It was the first time he's seen it. And I went to him before when we ran Nashville. I came into him and I said, Matt, I'll hire somebody else to run the thing at Talladega. I don't want to put you in a bad spot. I don't want to put you, and he was adamant that he was going, no, I'll drive that car. I'm driving that car.
Really?
All right. I mean, I said it to him several times that get somebody else to drive it if he didn't feel comfortable. But he was in it. And I'm telling you, when we went out I sent him out to practice, and I was trying to be very conservative, not put him around too many cars. Well, he jumped right up in that draft, and he started taking off, and Jimmy Spencer was back there beating on him, pushing on him, and he hung in there, and he ran. I thought we would run maybe 5 or 6 laps and get out of there and come in and talk about it. Heck no, we ran till we were almost out of fuel. I had to call him in because we were low on fuel, and I said, Matt, you got to come in. We're about out of fuel, and bring him on in. He did an unbelievable job, unbelievable.
How surprised were you, or did you, or was this unfolding exactly as you had planned?
Well, everybody wants to tell you it's their plan, but I really thought that he had the ability to do it. I mean, I guess at that time, maybe when I brought him down here, I was maybe one of the only ones, but I really thought he could do it. I mean, all the times I raced against him, he could really drive a race car. And even when you put him in a bad spot once in a while, he still raced you as clean or as clean as you raced him. And he could do things with the car that you couldn't do. And I mean, that's why the choice was there. I mean, it was a little easier for me because I raced him through the front windshield, and knew that knew what he could do, and to put him out there and watch him do that at Talladega, I could not believe it. I mean, I was like, holy crap, he can really do this, and I had a ton of confidence in him, but I did not think it would go like that. I mean, it went seamless, and we ran really well in a race, and he did a great job. I mean, it was like a natural out there, and he got a lot of respect from a lot of the top drivers too when he did that.
Was there a specific point that you remember at which you said, okay, we're on to something, we've got a chance to make something of this deal and go someplace? Well,
yes, and here's the thing though. You can have the best driver in the world and not be able to win races.
Yeah.
You gotta build everything and have everything to be able to do that. And as we were going, to be honest with you, I never looked at it like that. I looked at it as, okay, we need to work on our pit stops. We need to get better cars. We need to get better engines. We need to have better things to go with this. And when the '97 season was going that way, we were growing as a team, and we were very new to this. And I should not have been the crew chief, but affordability. This is how we were trying to make this all work, and we were trying to get better at our pit stops, and we were trying to get better cars, and we were trying to do all these things at that time, and we were just building this thing around everybody that was involved in it. It was kind of looking at it like from a head coach. What do you need here next?
Yeah.
And the tough part about '97 was we were doing this all with Kraft Foods, but we didn't understand we didn't have Kraft Foods going into '98.
Yeah.
That was the tough part. And Matt was running well, and everybody was whispering in his ear, come drive my car, come drive for us. This team ain't, this team's too small. They don't have no money. There's all these problems. And, so then when in September came around and we found out that we didn't have sponsorship for the next year, Matt at that time was being approached from Roush to be a test driver, which I told Matt flat out, you got to go do that. Mark was the one driving that. Mark Martin was driving it hard, and he wanted Matt as a part of that, and he wanted him to sign the contract. And Matt asked several times, should I do this? Should I do this? Well, yeah, you got to do this.
Really.
And then at that time, sponsorship, and we went. Me and my father went to a lot of places. And tried to, work on the sponsors that were looking for different teams and things like that. And people were interested in them, but we just weren't able to put it all together. And he went on. Matt went and signed that contract with Roush, and then at that time Jeff Smith was the president of Roush, and he was helping us, look for sponsorships and things like that. But we didn't have sponsorship for '98. But you kind of asked the question of how, what you thought of the team. Well, I thought our team was going in the right direction, and we went from 38th in the points all the way to 15th. Yeah. And I really thought we were building something that was going to be, that we could win a championship with. But we didn't have. Number one, we didn't have the financial end to help us, which is the key to this whole thing. And then everything else was kind of growing into it. So when we got to the end of '97 and we didn't have a sponsor, I pulled our whole team together and said, look, I'm going to finance this thing through the off season and make sure everybody's got a job here. But if you guys don't want to work here, you can go. And I no hard feelings. I understand, but I will make sure that you have a paycheck, and I will make sure it's covered and everything's going. And along with that, Matt was getting offers from other teams, and some of them jobs we even went to Matt and said, "You got to take that. I don't know what's going to happen here. You got to take that." And Matt, he would not have anything of that. He wanted to be with us. I guess he believed as much as I believed in him. He believed in us. And he thought we were going to be able to make it work somehow, some way. And I think he really liked. I think at that time in his life, I think he liked a small team, and he felt that everybody believed in what he was doing. Yeah. And I think and all the guys that worked on the team, I did not lose a guy. I was very honest with him the whole way. And the cool part about the whole thing was, Jeff Smith was able to work some sponsorship and told us he had a sponsor in line for us, and we were going to be good for '98, and that came right at the end of December. So I was pretty comfortable that everything was going to be okay, and we went and got all our cars ready. We had all our people in place. We were doing a lot of things getting ready for the '98 season. And back then, NASCAR still had it set up where the Busch Series went down and pre-tested at Daytona like a week before the race. And we went down there, and we were like second quick. And was really excited. And getting everything, we were working on the car the last day of practice or testing, and we were getting ready to load up and come home. And I could tell my dad something was amiss on my dad. When I talked to him, he wasn't the same jolly dad that I always know, and everything was going so well the whole day, so I didn't understand. But when we got everything loaded up, he asked me, instead of riding home in a team van, to ride home with him. Well, on the way home, he explained to me that that Jeff Smith had called and this whole deal had fallen apart, and everything that we had lined up here was not going to work. And
this was during testing?
This was during testing at Daytona before the season started.
Okay.
So now...
So it wasn't Speed Weeks?
It was not Speed Weeks yet.
All right, okay.
So we on the way home, we talked about it, and at that time I had financed a lot of the money to get through the off-season to carry the team. And then when the sponsorship deal lined up, it seemed like everything was going to fall into place and was all going to work. Well, when the sponsorship fell apart, I had financed a lot of what I carried through the off season, so I had to go. So me and my father went to Danny Richards at the People Bank down in Denver, North Carolina, that had helped us get this whole thing put together, and we explained him our situation. And we did do a few things right. We had purchased our building at the time, and we had bought all our equipment. We didn't have all that financed. So the banker basically looked at it and said, "Okay, everything you got here covers what you got. We're going to go to Daytona." Danny Richards says, "Line that team up, take that thing to Daytona. If you don't go to Daytona, it's not worth nothing." So '98, we headed down to Daytona. We actually had the sponsor that didn't work out, those colors on the car, because all the cars were painted like that. We were all ready to go, and so we headed down there, and we were down there for about a day. We qualified 5th, and everything was going okay. And then all of a sudden, Jeff Smith came over and he said, I have you guys a one-race sponsor for Daytona. But we got a problem. The problem is we got to paint the car. So I'm down there. We got so I run in by John Darby and I said, John, I got a sponsor, but he wants the car painted. Can I paint the car out back? No, you can't paint the car out back. What do you mean? I've seen this. Well, they don't do that no more. The EPA came and stepped in here and says, "Oh, they don't allow you to paint cars anymore."
Come on, man.
So I said to John, I really got to do this. So John says, "Okay, you find an auto body that's outside the track. I'll send an official with the car. Get the car painted. You can leave at 7 a.m. in the morning. You got to be back here by noon." I said, "Okay." So we got a hold of Speedway Auto Body. Funny, that's Speedway Auto Body, but we got a hold of the guy at Speedway Auto Body. Told him what our situation was. He said, "Yeah, bring it on over here." So what we did was we sanded it and we taped it all up in the garage and had it all ready for paint. We rolled it up in the trailer. 7 o'clock in the morning, the official got in the truck and we went over to the auto body and we painted the car.
The official.
Yeah, they sent a NASCAR official with us.
They actually sent one with
Yes.
us? Really?
Yeah, he stood there the whole time. And we painted the car, and we brought the car back to the track, and at 2:30 that afternoon, we were in lineup ready to go out and practice with our new sponsor, which was Lios Internet Company, was our new sponsor for one race.
Wow.
So we went off, and we finished 5th or 6th in that race, and nothing got wrecked and everything was good, and we had a little sponsorship money. We had a little money we won from the race, so we came back and we paid the bank a little, the tire guy a little, the engine guy a little, and everything was going right. So went down, saw Danny Richards at the bank again, and said, "Danny, what do we do?" And Danny says, "You guys go off to Rockingham. We'll keep going here."
Wow.
So we headed to Rockingham, and at that time the car was still painted in the red and blue colors, and we qualified 27th. Oh, boy, that's not good. All right, so we changed the whole car around. We worked on the car. Back then, you had a little more practice, so you could do things on the car, and got the car working pretty good in the last practice, and Matt was somewhat happy with it. And we were changing a few things for the race, and so we're starting 27th, and we're getting ready to go out. And my dad says to me, "Robbie, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with those Lios sponsorship? Should I put the decals on the car, or shouldn't I?" I said, "Well, Dad, I don't know. Nobody else is talking to us about sponsorship. Let's put Lios on it, and let's see what happens here." So we put the Lios stickers on right before we rolled it through tech.
Even though you had no money.
We had no money from them.
Okay.
But we were trying to, they had talked to us about maybe doing some more races, and we thought, well,
yeah.
let's say a thank you for Daytona, and let's put that on and see what happens. Well, we start running this race, and we're running pretty good. We start working our way up in the top 10, and all of a sudden, 15 laps to go, we're running second, and we're running Stewart down. Tony Stewart's leading. And 5 laps ago, they were running into each other, back and forth, trying to get the lead. And so they go down in the 4 on the last lap, or down in the 3 on the last lap, and Matt shoves Tony up the racetrack, and Matt drives underneath him, and we win the race. And I mean, we're in Reiser Enterprise, blue polos, black jeans.
Yeah.
The way we were pitting the car, I mean, we didn't have any extra people. There was nothing. We win this race. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
I get goosebumps just thinking about that race because it was so exciting. I mean, if I look at one race in everything that we did, that's the one race that changed the world, because that changed our life for where it was going to head. And so we win that race. I remember Jimmy Fennick running out of the garage area and high-fiving all of us as we ran into Victory Lane, and that was when they had Victory Lane on that little ramp, and you ran up there, and it was really exciting. And then, so now we win the race. We get a lot of publicity. We get an opportunity to go back to the bank, go back to the tire guy, go back to the engine guy, pay everybody a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go to Vegas. And now we had won this race that Lios had their name on the car, and all of a sudden they get all this publicity. So they call in the middle of the week and say, "We want to come down and see you guys and see if we can put something together for the rest of the season." So Jeff Smith calls us and says, "Reisers, you guys come over here and we'll sit at the table and see what we can put together with Lios." So Tuesday morning, we're at this big long table that me and my dad had never been a part of anything like this before, and we were in there, and they were talking back and forth, and Lios put out a figure, and Jeff Smith said, "Oh, we can't do that. We're underselling that product. We won't be able to do that. And I was sitting at the table thinking to myself, man, I might not even be going to Vegas this weekend if we don't get some type of sponsorship here. And I'm looking at my dad, waiting for him to say something. My dad's just kind of listening to the whole thing. Finally, I says, Jim, the fellow from Lios, his name was Jim. I says, Jim, we'll take that deal. Jeff Smith shuts the whole meeting down and asks for me and my dad to go outside in the hallway to talk to him. And Jeff says, Reisers, you guys can go back in and talk to them if you want. But we are not able to be a part of that. But if you guys feel that you can make it work with the finances they have, then you can take that deal on your own. And if you can make it work, great. If you can't, I can't help you with this. And I understood. Roush Racing had a whole different philosophy, and they had a lot different company than what we had, and we were able to take the sponsorship that they offered. So we went back in and sat down with Lios, and we worked out a deal to run the rest of the season with Lios on the side of the car. And with the idea of that they would renew in July if they were happy with what they were doing. And we put this whole thing together. And the really cool part about it is my dad sat at the casino at Vegas by the fax machine at midnight the night before the race to get all the contracts signed and everything signed. My dad calls me at midnight that night. And I think he's calling me to tell me that it's all done. He says, Robbie, we ran into a problem. What's the problem, Dad? They want the car black for the race tomorrow. I said, Dad, there's no way. There's no way I can do it. You're going to have to work this deal. So he went back and they talked it over and they figured it all out. And we left the car to them colors and put the Lios on again like we did the week before. And we went racing. And we had a sponsor for the rest of the year.
All right. So you talked about the Lios deal. I want to ask about the paint scheme at Rockingham. Was that by design or?
It was designed for the sponsor that we thought we were
the previous
going to have. The previous sponsor, yes.
All right. So
and I don't want to mention their name because I don't want to downgrade them because it would have been great if it would have been able to put together, but it just didn't work out.
All right. So this is an editorial comment. All right. I don't want to offend anybody, but that's the ugliest race car I believe I've ever seen. I mean, it looked to me like you had extra parts in the shop, and the quarter panel was one color, and the roof was one color, and the hood was blue, and
if the car could have got decaled, it would have been great.
That was by design.
Yes, that paint scheme was on there without decals, so it was basically their design, but they were going to decal it, and it would have looked great with the decals. It just didn't. Yeah. It didn't fit with what they had there. But I'll tell you what, though, at Rockingham that afternoon, it was the most beautiful car I've ever seen.
So, hey, that's ambiance. Yeah.
It's in-house or outside?
I think that's
a car running.
Yeah, that's in-house. So you get everything sorted out with sponsorship. You got a little bit of money coming in. You don't necessarily have to worry about sponsorship anymore. But then Matt and Dale Jr. proceed to go after each other pretty tooth and nail for the championship that year. From the outside looking in, it really seemed like a David and Goliath situation. How did you see it?
Well, there's no doubt we were on the underdog side of that. They had an established team with a lot of outside help to support their program, and we were a small program, and we were full of fight. We were willing to work extra hard and do the things we needed to do to be competitive, and that's what our group did. It was a bunch of young guys that never won a race. That never won a championship, and everybody wanted a piece of the action, and everybody was working as hard as they could to stay competitive with what Dale Jr.'s crew had. I will tell you that year, those 2 years that we raced against Tony Sr. and Tony Jr. and the whole Dale Jr. program was the most fun thing I've ever been involved in. Yes, we were competitive, and yes, we were there to win, and yes, both of us were there to take each other's money. I mean, there's no question about it. But it was so much fun to park next to him every week, race as hard as we could, and have the laughs we had. It was so much fun.
It's fun to watch.
It was
fun to cover.
It was great at that time. I remember Tony Senior. They had bought a brand new set of scales one time, and they were cordless. But they didn't work. They didn't work at all. I almost said the wrong word.
They didn't work. They didn't work. How?
They didn't work. And Tony Senior grabbed those things and threw those things in the trailer, and you could tell every crew guy was standing out of the way. I mean, and Tony comes out and, that's enough of that. I don't use them no more. But it's just a lot of fun with those guys. My mom always made cookies, and they'd always come in the trailer and take cookies. And even Dale Sr. would come up and get my mom's cookies. So it was always a really friendly relationship, but we raced hard against each other.
So the gap between the two of you was pretty close until Rockingham that fall, and Matt got caught up in a crash during happy hour. You brought out a backup, but seemed to never really get a handle on it during the race itself. And this is what having 32 years of newspapers is worth. I can go back and get the details. Matt was pretty upset with Phil Parsons after the deal during practice. And the week before that, your shops were basically back to back, and some of his guys had supposedly launched water balloons into your shop. Now, if I don't find anything else about this interview, I want to hear all about the phone call between you and Phil over the water balloons.
Oh, I don't even know anymore.
Well, make it up.
I don't really know. Our shops were close, and G Need was always a practical joker, and there was always something going on. And at that time, we were trying to run for the championship, and I was taking it pretty seriously. So I didn't want no shenanigans or anything to go on in the shop. So I don't really know the conversation I had with Phil. I know Phil didn't put up with nothing from me. When I called, I know that he wasn't listening to me, but. I really don't. I know we had something go on there where they were launching something, but I don't. It didn't really go in the shop. It just come up in the parking lot, I think, and I don't really know that much about it. I don't remember that much about it.
Well, it was in Winston Cup Scene, and I wrote it.
Yeah.
So it has to be accurate.
Well, I like I say, it's accurate. I don't really know all the details of what they shot out there and what we did or any of that. I know I was pretty embedded in what we were doing to be competitive for that championship, and I know that I didn't want to put up with outside problems, but anyway, whatever happened in practice, they'd run into each other and wreck the cars, and we had to take out the backup, and we just never got the backup as good as what we needed to do with our primary.
How disappointed were you over losing that title, or were you satisfied coming that close after everything that you had to struggle to put together?
Well, I think you're never satisfied if you don't win.
Right.
So, but to take a young team like that with a young driver and, have the resources we had, it was pretty impressive to what we all did that first year with Lios helping us. And to be as competitive as we were, only fuel the fire to keep going to the next step. And what happened in that summer was when July came and the deadline for the Lios Internet Company to sign on for the following year, they passed on that. Yeah. I think Jim had pretty much spent what he could spend to make it all work, and they weren't going to do it another year. And when July 31st came and the deadline passed, August 1st we had DeWalt standing in the shop wanting to sponsor us. And they automatically signed right up, and that was really, really big because that took us into the future and got us to the point where we were back to square one and we had everything paid for and we're back to you didn't have to worry so much about owing everybody everything.
So was that a Roush deal, or was that something that you guys had put together?
That my dad and Vinny Lipinski from DeWalt put that together.
Okay.
There was no involvement with the Cup organization at that point.
Okay. When did it become official that Matt would be going to Winston Cup with Jack? Were the two of you a package deal all along, or how did that work out?
No. Well, it was driven by Mark, and and DeWalt was wanting to go Cup racing, and my dad wanted to go Cup racing, and I had to talk my dad off the ledge there because that we barely made it in the Busch Series. We were not going to make this thing in the Cup Series, and my dad was.
So he was wanting to build the program himself.
Oh yeah. He thought I was making a big mistake by not following that through. But you got to realize that at the time, Mark Martin was real interested in Matt, and Matt had his contract signed up with the Cup organization, and. That was where they were going to go, and I think at that time that's where Matt was going to go, and DeWalt wanted to go with Matt to that series. I don't think So it was more of a discussion between my dad and myself than it was between anybody else because it needed to be squelched because we actually had sponsorship for the Busch Series team to continue on. With Visine and Bear and all the things that we had coming in the future, that team was set up and ready to run for another couple of years. So it was really nice that was done, and the guys that were involved with our Busch Series team could continue having a job and working along and build competitive race cars and go racing. So that was good, and I think with Matt going to Cup, Matt was going to go to Cup with or without me, and then I think Matt just decided that he would do it with me. So he asked me to come along.
So it wasn't just simply a matter of you taking the job and going Cup racing with Matt. You also had the family dynamic and the team and everything also.
Yeah, I mean, I had, if you go back to '96, I had to give up the driving, and then in '99, I had to decide that I was going to go work for somebody else and leave my family stuff back. But the part that was real easy for me was my dad was going to stay and oversee it, and a lot of the team was going to stay there. That was part of this, so it was very comfortable to go off and do that. And plus, when we did, in '99, we did the 5-race series in the Cup side, and we did that together with the Cup organization.
Was there ever an issue? You were running Chevrolets at Reiser Enterprises, and of course Roush was a Ford organization. Was there ever any conflict there, or were they ever not able to do something for you because of the conflict between the two manufacturers?
No, that never seemed to be a problem.
Okay. All right.
Never seen the issue. Chevrolet was with us on the Cup or on the Busch side, and the Ford was with the Cup side. So. Everybody played nice, and it worked out pretty well.
Okay, all right. Matt finished third at Darlington that fall of '99, to move to just 26 points behind Dale in the championship battle. And at that point, it's anybody's ball game. But then he finished 20th at Richmond, and he wrecked after getting together with Dale at Dover. And then finally, you had engine problems at Memphis. And at the same time, you just mentioned it, you and Matt ran 5 Winston Cup races at the end of the year for Jack. Did you feel like that maybe took something away from your Busch Series program, or was all of that stuff in the Busch Series just simply bad racing luck in your mind?
I don't know. We had a separate group of people that were supplied to us to help with the Cup program. I would say being a smaller team, sure, it took a little bit away, but that's where we were headed, and everybody understood that, and I don't think anybody on the Busch side or the Cup side felt slighted either way. We were just doing the best we could with what we had, and we all had a direction of where we wanted to go. So I don't think we didn't even discuss that. We just kept working.
Okay. What was your transition into the Winston Cup division like? Were you ready? Did you feel ready?
Oh, I don't know. I probably was. I was for surely not ready when we went Busch racing, and I was probably a little bit more into it on the Cup side when we went Cup racing. A little bit, I felt a little more confident, but I also realized that we had a big hill to climb here, and we had to do a lot of work to be competitive. I mean, what a lot of people don't understand is when we went to the Cup organization, they did not have a building, cars, or people. And I know that sounds surprising for that large of an organization, but they were adding on. The 6 and the 99 had all their equipment, but they were adding. These teams, they had bought the 97 and bought the 17, or, had bringing on the 17 all at the same time. So when we went into those buildings, they were empty. So it was to supply them with equipment, get cars built, get people hired. I mean, there's a lot of work to putting that together for 2000 to run against Dale Jr. for the Rookie of the Year. There was a lot of work there to put that all together.